All right, let's get started, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, Mia, folks. How are you? Happy New Year. Happy 2021. My name is Stan Nikowski. We're going to kick off the networking masterclass here. As you know, in January, we had our 2021 field kickoff virtually, first time ever, with multiple sessions over 2 weeks across all of the geos. So we did not have our networking masterclass in January of 2021. Hence, Happy New Year. Welcome to the February 2021 Networking Masterclass. And this is app delivery and security. Again, just so everyone's aware, Networking Masterclass at citrix.com is our email distribution list. Please use that handle to send us feedback, contact us, follow up, ask questions, whatever the case may be, now or anytime in the future. We monitor that distribution list and take all of that feedback into account very seriously for our planning activities and our content reviews. So let's get started. Just as everyone is coming online here, audio webinar, computer generally works best for us. We all have different connectivities and telcos. So sometimes the dial-ins have presented problems in the past. So if you have webinar, if you have good VoIP capabilities with your internet connection, please use that as your preferred method for audio. Okay. If you can't hear us, again, everyone is aware we have moderators, so just put something into the chat and we'll try and help you get that resolved right away. And again, those moderators are monitoring the question queue, so queue those up. If there's anything throughout the content presentations that we go through today, if you have questions, we will make an effort to answer those directly to you, either over the webinar itself, answering the questions, or we'll type those back to you. And again, those get all saved and printed off at the end of each webinar, so we have a follow-up thread for you as well. And the session is recorded. So again, this is our EMEA session. We will have 2 more sessions, Americas and APJ. So the reason I bring that up is because if you do have a meeting conflict, you can certainly join one of the other sessions to pick up the content. It is being recorded. If you don't want to rejoin, you can certainly wait until the conclusion of all of our webinars today. We will post those in our share file library, which we've been doing for the past 10+ years. And you can go back and download the content and listen to the presenters that have been recorded as well. The other thing is if you want to drop out or there's some interesting content and you want to go grab some friends and join one of the other sessions, you're more than welcome to do that based on your time zones and your scheduling as well. All right, so that's me on the left. I'm Stan Nikowski. I do the EMEA session. We've been together for several years now. You know, Dave for the Americas will handle the Americas webinar this afternoon with our presenters today. So we have a couple of our esteemed colleagues here, both from product and marketing, and we're going to have a very interesting topic for you. So I think this is going to, today's topic, I'm not going to, be the spoiler of content, but today's topic I think is going to help us level set, use some industry terminology, as well as some nice demos with the technology. And then we're going to bring our old friend Jason Poole back in for our news and views segment. He is going to provide us some information regarding some Tally reports, how that data was compiled, and what it actually means from an analyst perspective from the reporting itself. All right. So spotlight today, Citrix Secure Internet Access. I'll leave it at that. I'll let the presenters go through the content for you. And then we'll switch gears as we normally do to news and views. And as I mentioned, the Tally Group competitive testing and our next masterclass topic. So with that, I am going to bring Akshay as a presenter, and Akshay, I'm going to make you presenter. If you can, sir, please put yourself in presentation mode so we can see your screen, which we can. If you can go ahead, you're in presentation mode, just give us an audio check and then take it away, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Do me a favor, introduce yourself, say hello to our EMEA audience. There's a bunch of them out there listening to you, and begin your content.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stan, for the introduction and for the introduction to the topic, as well as introducing me. Folks, a huge thank you for joining us today. As Stan mentioned, the conversation we'll be having today is pretty big, is huge. As far as Citrix is concerned, as far as the industry is concerned, hopefully you'll find it useful as well. I'm going to introduce myself and some of the other presenters in the next couple of slides, but just do me a favor, sit back, hang tight, and enjoy the content. We've got some pretty powerful presenters lined up for you today. So a quick agenda, we're going to talk about some macro trends in technology that are driving a huge shift, a paradigm shift, as a lot of marketers like to call it, in the way security and networking need to work, individually as well as together. And so we'll be talking about that, and then we'll be getting into this term called Secure Access Service Edge. I have a feeling a lot of you would have heard about it, but we'll take a look at what SASE, or Secure Access Service Edge, really means. Then we'll get into Citrix's newest offering, which is generally available today. So you guys are probably the first to hear of it in such a live setting, which is Citrix Secure Internet Access. And then we'll go into what's the coolest part of Citrix Secure Internet Access, which is what are the things under the hood, as well as how it integrates with other Citrix products and other third-party products. And then we'll go into the product demonstration. I realize that you guys like the meaty and the technical depth, and hence I'm going to keep the technology trends short, and we'll try and quickly go into topics 2, 3, 4, and 5. So during this presentation, it's going to be it's definitely myself, and then there's Elisa Caradio, who has been driving the Citrix Secure Internet Access and the SASE project from a product management perspective. She's been bringing all the teams together, internally and externally, to make this happen. And then we've got Ravi Pegara, who's our expert as far as product demonstration is concerned and opening the product and going under the hood is concerned. So he's going to be giving you a deep product demonstration, and feel free to put your questions in the chat. So let's get started. Again, I'm going to be quick in these slides because I have a feeling you all are already aware of this, but I think it helps set context in terms of what we are going to be talking about. And there's 3 macro trends that I'd like to talk about. The first one is about applications moving to the cloud. That's AWS, Azure, GCP, whatever you prefer. So applications moving to the cloud as well as SaaS. The second trend is about workers getting mobile. I think most of us are going to be working from home today. And last is about threats evolving. Now, as applications are moved to the cloud, what most of us as architects, as network engineers, what most of us have done is we basically created a link that goes between our data center and the cloud. So if there's a user that's sitting in the branch location, or that's sitting at home, that user gets VPN'd in or basically steered into the on-premise data center for security scrubbing, and then the traffic is steered to the SaaS application or to the cloud application. Now, this is like if you'd like to go from, say San Francisco to London, you will be taking a flight from first to San Francisco to, say, Australia, and then to London. And that's a really long route, and that's not an ideal way to do it, right? You'd ideally want to go directly from San Francisco to London. And so you want a way of doing local internet breakouts or direct internet access. And the challenge with that is there are some security issues that you have to take care of. And so we need to figure out what's the right way of handling that security issue. The second is, as workers are mobile, as you and I are mobile, as our sales executives and our road warriors, as they increasingly travel once COVID-19 reduces, then we need to ensure that all of these workers are consistently protected, in the sense that they have the exact same protection, whether they're at the office or whether they're at Starbucks or whether they're at home or inside an airplane. And to be able to do that, we need to figure out a new way of securing them, because currently enterprise firewalls will not secure workers if those workers decide to log off VPNs and they just go direct to the internet onto say whatever site of their choice. And lastly, threats by themselves are also evolving very rapidly. So today, again, we saw with COVID-19 that the rate of new malware that was coming out, the level of activity by bad actors was significantly higher. And as these threats come out faster and faster, as security teams, we need to be cognizant of how quickly can we really keep up with those evolving threats. And it takes security patches and upgrades and updates to be able to keep up with those threats. And how much time is that really taking away from us? Because ideally, we want to do away with the routine work and focus on things that are really strategic in nature, that's going to help our enterprise grow and help us deliver new digital services. So to be able to deal with all of these issues, we need to come up with a solution. And the solution is an evolution of how networking and security is done. But there is one critical point, which most people forget. And this is something that even Gartner has talked about, and I'll touch it in the next slides. But the critical point is that it's not just networking and security evolving. It's actually the convergence of both networking and security. Because just think about it. I mean, today, let's just say you are trying to, let's just say your enterprise, your company decides to acquire another company. And when you do that, you need to go through this merger and acquisition process, and then you need to bring the networks together. That's a long, drawn-out process, and that takes a lot of work. What if you had some technologies in which you could ship a few boxes to the other organization, plug in a couple of wires, you're good to go? And from a security perspective, the box that you ship just automatically connects to the security architecture. There's no rerouting into certain existing data centers. There's no figuring out as to how much capacity you need in your MPLS networks. There's none of that. So what if you have the level of agility to be able to expand to as many sites you want as quickly as you want? Also, from the, let's just say the second point is that if you want to empower your remote workers, you need that level of resiliency and consistency in performance, which means that the networking and security architecture should ideally talk to each other in a way that if the security architecture fails, the networking architecture should immediately get to know and reroute to the next security data center or the next security point of presence. So that level of resiliency is maintained. There is a conversation that's happening between networking and security to ensure performance, consistency, to ensure business continuity. And this plays out not just in terms of automated resiliency, it also plays out in terms of analytics, in terms of your visibility and the fact that there will be no blind spots in all those things. And lastly, you need consistent policy everywhere. This, I agree, is more of a security thing, but it's essentially saying that, okay, wherever your worker is, that worker should be able to be given the same consistent security policy, but also from a performance perspective. Okay, you want to perhaps throttle down YouTube traffic, whereas you want to be able to ensure that, say, Salesforce.com or Office 365 traffic is always higher performance. So that level of policy should be consistent everywhere. To be able to do that, we need to come up with a new solution, and that new solution, and this is not what we are saying, but this is what Gartner has also said, that new solution is defined as Secure Access Service Edge, also called SASE. Now, SASE is the convergence of networking and security functionality into a single vendor product that is sold as an integrated service rather than a separate product. And we'll go into this in detail later as to why that single pass architecture is important, why that architecture where service chaining is not happening, and where there is agility in terms of delivery is important. But before we do that, I'd love to find out as to how many of you have actually heard about SASE. So at this point, Stan, can we introduce the first polling question?
Okay, so how familiar are you with the actual Gartner, the industry analyst Secure Access Service Edge framework? We have about 60% of our votes in, so we will take another 20 seconds or so here. And then I will show the results so that the audience can actually see what their peers' answers are and feedback is as well. So with that, it looks like the votes are in. And let me share the results. So there you go. Almost pretty even third split, and not as many Gartner experts out there as you. So go ahead, Akshay, continue on, please.
So thank you, Stan. So based on the polling results, it seems like a lot of us are not familiar with SASE. So I'll just quickly dive into this. Essentially, what SASE does is SASE says that it says a couple of things. One is it says that, okay, today enterprises need to be more agile, and they also need to help with all the trends that we just discussed, right? They need to help with cloud application delivery. They need to help with mobile worker security. They need to help with quick response and business continuity. And for this, we realize that traditional hardware-based hub and spoke architectures are not going to work because they're just too cumbersome to manage. It takes a lot of time to continue to update them. And so Gartner has suggested that we need to move to a model that does a few things. One is it brings together some of the core security functionality into a cloud delivered security model. So it's a model in which you're going to replace what Gartner suggests is replacing all your hardware-based. You might have a separate vendor that you use for DLP. You might have a separate vendor that you use for firewall, a separate vendor that you use for say, sandboxing. So you bring all of that functionality together into a single vendor service that is delivered via the cloud. So it's a thin branch, heavy cloud model. And you take all that security functionality and you throw it into the cloud, and you use a thin appliance, an SD-WAN enabled appliance that's sitting in the branch location to connect into that security cloud. And what you really want, the nuance that's quite important out there is that you want that SD-WAN appliance and that security cloud to be tightly integrated under the hood, in the sense that they're talking to each other. Because when they're talking to each other, they'll be able to ensure that, okay, if there's a little breakdown in say the security cloud, as I said earlier, the networking appliance is going to immediately steer it to another location. You will be able to go into one single UI with a single sign-on, and you'll be able to look at the entire infrastructure, security as well as networking. That's essentially what Gartner is saying. And again, this needs to be a single vendor service, because if it is a single vendor service, you're not going to 2 different vendors or 3 different vendors in case of any technical support, in case of any troubleshooting issues. And so in line, and there are a few papers out there from Gartner that you can read. One of them is mentioned here, which is Gartner's initial SASE forecast. It was published in August 2020. But in line with Gartner's recommendations, Citrix has launched its approach to SASE, which is 100% compliant in the sense that we have all security functionality and the networking functionality that Gartner has mentioned, and we are the only vendor that actually unifies all of it. So not only do we check all the boxes, but we also check the box in terms of the unification of all of that functionality. And that's the icing on the cake here. That's the real power behind our solution here. And it's important to realize that this is a 1 + 1 = 3 solution, because today you could, for instance, you could go out to a vendor and say, okay, fine, I want to replace my VPNs. The vendor is probably going to suggest a ZTNA, a Zero Trust Network Access solution to you. Now, a Zero Trust Network Access solution will solve a certain set of problems. It does not solve all your problems from a replacing VPN or support or securing remote workers perspective. So you want to be able to look at this unified solution as a whole. We do realize that today that this is a long conversation, especially if you're beginning to learn about SASE. You're going to want to learn details. And yes, so this is going to be in a phased approach, the learning as well as the deployment of this. So at this point, let's just go into the understanding what are the different components that make up SASE, and let's just understand as to what's the big announcement that you're making today. And I don't think I'm qualified enough to make that announcement. I think I'm going to call on Elisa Carrillo, who's going to introduce Citrix Secure Internet Access. But before we do that, Stan, can we ask the second question, and can we figure out as to how many of the people in the audience have actually been considering cloud delivered security solutions? So how many of you have been considering a solution in which you're getting rid of the hardware-based security stacks and just putting all of that into the cloud?
Yeah, good. We're about 25% voted. Interesting feedback on this one. So looks like this is a topic of interest, I would certainly say, with the answers still
And
coming
if that's
in.
the case, then I
31
think you're going to
seconds.
find the upcoming slides very interesting.
Good, good. Yeah, about another 20 seconds here, folks, where it's over half have voted, 3/4 have voted. Let me just give you another 10 seconds. They're still coming in, so I'm going to wait. All right, looks like we've kind of topped off here. So let me go ahead and share the results. Interesting.
Awesome. So if there's a lot of you seem to be either planning to or are actively exploring or are on the fence in terms of a cloud delivered security solution, definitely listen to what Elisa has to say. Understand the nuances behind the solution and how this is going to benefit you, because this is the way this is where security is going. In fact, I remember a stat: 76% of CIOs and CISOs plan to move their security to the cloud. So you definitely want to be on this bandwagon. So Elisa, take it away.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Elisa Caredio. As Akshay said, I'm here to go a little bit into the weeds of what secure internet access is. So first of all, give me a thumb up if you can see the slides, and I can take it away. All right, I assume that silence is consent, and you can all see the slides.
I'm sorry, we're still seeing the polling.
Yeah.
Dan, did you close the poll?
Still seeing the polling. Both polls are closed, so let me just see if I can change presenters, and I'll change you back again. Bear with us for 1 second here while I redo. That's it. Let's try this one more time, folks. There we go. We're seeing your slide sorter view, so if you just want to switch your screens in the taskbar.
Is it better now?
That is better now. Thank you very much. Introduce yourself as well, please.
Perfect. All right, everyone. My name is Elisa Caredio. I'm part of the product management team that took Secure Internet Access to market. And I'm going to take you through the weeds of the technology. I will give you some highlights and food for thoughts in understanding what Secure Internet Access really brings to you and your organizations. We are going to focus on that first block in the diagram that Akshay just talked about, which is the technology that allows you and your organization to really protect all users from any device in any location when they access internet and SaaS applications. Why is that important? Is because all the internet traffic could bring in any sort of threats to your organization, and you really want to protect the users so that you stop the threats before they affect that user, and also before those threats really expand and move laterally across your organization from user to user. And Secure Internet Access is the cloud service that Citrix has put together that helps you do that through a set of security technologies that span from secure web gateway functionalities to cloud access security broker, as well as malware protection with sandboxing and DLP. This comprehensive security stack is really being offered as a cloud service. So we have a point of presence all across the globe, over 100 point of presence, with the intention of bringing security as close as possible to the user and minimize latency. It's also, as Akshay mentioned, a single pass architecture. Why is this important? This is important because typically, or in most cases, other vendors have a collection of independent virtual machines that are stitched together to provide these capabilities. For us, it's a single service. What it means is that when the traffic comes in, by default, across all the different editions of this product, we apply SSL decryption. And then once the traffic is in clear, we are able to apply all these security technologies that I talked about to the traffic, all the security to controls, and then re-encrypt the traffic and send it to the destination. And this is important because we are not going to create additional latency as we process your traffic, and we provide high performance and the best user experience when users access those SaaS and internet applications. It's also important to know that all these security technologies are really top market security technologies, are based on top market threat intelligence and feeds, as well as some organic grown technologies, and really provide that layer of security technologies that is needed today to be able to identify and block latest threats. So I talked about secure internet access being a cloud service, and it is important as any cloud service to know where our point of presence are located. We have over 100 POPs all across the globe, and as I said, having POPs in high density countries or locations means that we can provide users the best experience possible when their traffic is routed through the cloud service, minimizing latency and providing best user experience. And also, it's a cloud service where you can configure central security policies. As administrators, you really can control this entire cloud service from a single pane of glass management that allows you to create policies that apply to all the users globally, or you can create policies that are specific to a specific country or location, so that you can really tweak the controls that you want to bring in when, as an organization, you have users all across the globe. Having said that, you may want to know, how do I connect to this cloud service? Yes, I understand you have a cloud service is covering all the globe. I have a single pane of glass management to control my security policies, but how do I really connect my users into this cloud service? So there's actually two big ways to connect users to a cloud service. Let's start from our value add, which is our SD-WAN integration. As Akshay mentioned before, one of the pillars of the SASE framework, as Gartner has defined it, is to be able to create a synergy between networking and security. And we have done so by creating automated connectivity from our Citrix SD-WAN devices to the Secure Internet Access service. And by that, what I mean is that if your users sit in a corporate branch, or if they sit at home, but they use an SD-WAN device like the 110 Citrix SD-WAN 110 device to connect to the internet, what they will be able to do is by a set of very simple policy on the SD-WAN side, be able to redirect their traffic seamlessly to the Secure Internet Access service. And with that, the benefit of using SD-WAN is the fact that we are able, therefore, to provide resiliency in that connectivity from your home or your office to the cloud service itself. You can configure primary and secondary POP connectivity so that you are always connected and provide an always-on experience to your users. The other block of the other bucket is for users that are mobile. And that means all of us working from home today, people that travel, sit at coffee shops, in airports, and what they really want to do as you as organization, what really you want to do is being able to connect these users to the cloud service so that you can apply the same security policies for those users, irrespective of where they are physically located. And in order to do that, we give you the tools to download a piece of software on your end user devices. And this software, software agent, is not only providing connectivity and redirecting traffic to the cloud service securely over port 443, but also it gives you the ability to detect the identity of the users and give that identity to the user to the cloud service. So you can express the policies in terms of users and users groups. And also it helps, by default, it installs all the required certificates to provide that SSL decryption that is so important today because the majority of the web traffic is encrypted. It's HTTPS traffic. And if you're concerned about, well, I have all these software agents, how do I make sure that they are compatible with my end user devices? Well, we support agents on a wide variety of operating systems, spanning from Mac OS, iOS, Android, Windows, Linux, etc. But if you have Internet of Things devices, printers, thermostats, whatnot, and you really want to protect those as well, we have a way to redirect traffic through agentless data redirection from those devices through PAC files. So we're really covering all sorts of devices to protect users in all sorts of locations, whether it is at home, the branch office, or really mobile users and things. All right, now you've got these users connecting to the cloud service. What is this cloud service really bring to me? Yes, we talked about the security and we'll get into that in a bit, but why is this cloud service so important? Well, one of our differentiator is really the fact that our cloud service is smart enough to provide two things. First, we provide you privacy. Most of the vendors out there use the same instances in the cloud to handle traffic coming from different users. So pictorially, it is the cloud with all the little squares of different colors. It gives you a sense of what it means for a single instance to process traffic from different enterprises. They're all intermingling, and they could potentially slow down other customers' traffic. And really, they don't provide any good segregation of data across enterprises. But we, with Secure Internet Access, really deploy separate gateways, cloud gateways for each of the customers. So our data processing looks like the cloud on the right side, where we keep data belonging to different enterprises separate. And we are able to provide zoning based on customer, enterprise, and also geolocation. This makes it very easy to meet regulatory compliance type of mandates like GDPR. The other big differentiator that our cloud service infrastructure brings to you is the fact that we give you a set of static source IPs that are mapped to your organizations. And wherever your traffic hits the cloud service and goes out, it's mapped to these source IPs that belong to you. So whether your users are sitting in the coffee shop or at the airport, their IP address is really mapped to your organization. And why is this important? Is because you can keep the same policies that you have on source IPs. You're able to provide or create policies to stop access based on source IP. You're able to integrate seamlessly with third-party tools and infrastructure out there that require static IPs. Let's come to the meat of these. I talked about the infrastructure. I talked about how to connect the users. Now let's talk about the security capabilities that this infrastructure provides on top of this agility and flexibility to handle the traffic coming from different enterprises. So we provide a layered approach to security through policies that you can configure centrally on and specify those policies on users and user groups in 4 categories: malware protection policies, web filtering policies, DLP, and CASB. Of course, I'm going high level here. Ravi will take you through a product demo and you'll be able to see those policies in action. But malware protection is important to you because through a combination of top-ranked signature and signatureless malware engines, we're able to detect all sorts of malware. And we take threat feeds from over 10 different threat intelligence sources, but we give you also the ability to feed your own threat intelligence via API. And we have a sandbox environment where we can process suspicious traffic in isolation, so it doesn't really affect anything else until it's deemed secure. And to go along with the malware protection, we provide intrusion prevention policies as well. The web filtering category gives you all sorts of control in terms of stopping categories of web sites, for example, gambling sites or adult content sites. And they give you also control over old browsers and OSs that you can stop because you don't know if they've been patched or not. And typically older browsers and OSs could be carrying security vulnerabilities. You can block, create, allow, and block lists based on URLs, based on users and users group. And we also inspect content and MIME types, as well as file and domain extension to provide you really the granularity to create the policies that you need to protect organizations against threats. And another big piece of the web filtering capabilities is the combination of different techniques that helps you detect evasive malware. Evasive malware is that malware that is carried by protocols like Tor or BitTorrent that really can conceal the malware inside, and traditional AAVs, for example, are not able to detect. So with this layered approach and combination of techniques, you'll be able to detect and stop those type of malwares. DLP is important. It allows you to identify sensitive data within the content and really be able to create rules on how to analyze and handle sensitive data. What is sensitive data? Sensitive data is any personal information like telephone numbers, credit card numbers, addresses, and so on and so forth. So you can really instruct the engines through policies to look for that data across a different set of file types and handle it and create policies when the data leaks outside of your organizations. But you're able to also create your own search patterns and customize the type of policy that you want to apply. Last but not least is CASB controls. Being secure internet access a gateway to the cloud, it's the right place where to create policies that give you the controls and the visibility over cloud app use. These policies allow you to set and enforce restrictions such as Office 365 tenant restrictions, browser safe search, for example. You could even say, well, hey, I want Facebook to be in read-only mode, and all sorts of combinations of and controls over cloud applications. We also are integrated with Microsoft CAS, and you can expand our native CASB controls using Microsoft CAS as well. All of that is combined with deep analytics for full visibility and reporting. We have the ability to log activities for all users, including mobile users, based on usernames that are associated to any activity. And we are able to selectively encrypt logs to ensure that confidential information is preserved. We have ways to create advanced reporting by extracting critical information that is key to identify high-risk users and activities. We have real-time dashboards and alerts that help you really act fast and to potential threats. We have built-in templates to create executive reports, and we are also able to integrate with SEMS out there through built-in connectors and export those reports real time. All of these from the same console. So your console will give you not only control over the policies, but also will give you all this visibility and reporting and dashboards to be able to detect and react to incidents centrally. This architecture is flexible, so you may wonder, oh, but I already have an existing security infrastructure, for example, in my data center. How do I layer secure internet access? I could do it in a couple of ways. If you have or you're looking into an SD-WAN deployment, SD-WAN gives you all sorts of policy controls to steer traffic to the right path. So if you have a security infrastructure in your data center, you can create policies that steer traffic to that security infrastructure and the rest of the traffic to secure internet access, for example. Or you could use Citrix SIA to export real-time logs, or using DNS or ICAP forwarding or proxy chaining to chain secure internet access to an existing security infrastructure. So this gives you the flexibility to really phase out on-prem aging security systems smoothly while introducing secure internet access in your network. One of the big advantages that Akshay talked about in our Citrix approach to SASE is unified management. So I'll pass it back over to Akshay, who will take you through the next set of slides.
Great. Before we do that, Akshay and team, just a few questions. It looks like the audience is really enjoying this content. There is one question about the POP in mainland China and whether that's part of the integrated POP fabric and if it actually is traversing the Great Firewall. Is there any comment on that? How do we handle Chinese-based POPs into the SIA fabric? Can someone comment on that?
Yes, this is Elisa. I can answer that. So we have POPs, all around China that are definitely the primary locations. We have Hong Kong, we have Singapore, but we are also looking at extending this fabric into China. It's not something that we have available right now, but it's definitely on our minds.
Okay, good. So we'll keep the team, the team will keep the audience updated as we expand those POPs and all of the conformance that's required to do that. Another question is does the SIA support smart cards through the session? So an authentication question, apparently, if you're going to use some type of certificate-based authentication, is that supported today?
We have all ways to integrate authentication, user authentication. In fact, we have AD plugins, we have SAML technologies in which you can really learn, in which secure internet access can really learn identity from your authentication systems and help you create policies based on that.
Okay. All right, so Akshay, I'm going to, I don't know if that really, if there's any additional questions around that, just send them through and we'll respond back to you in writing if you're interested in specific client-based PKI. Akshay, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter. Can you hear us, bud?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, you're back.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen in organizer mode. And now you're in presentation mode. Continue on, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Elisa, for that presentation about SIA. So, folks, as Elisa mentioned, that Citrix Secure Internet Access is this cloud-delivered security service. It's a comprehensive cloud-delivered security service. Now, you start tying that up with the concept of SASE, which we had discussed earlier. Essentially, being that you need to combine and unify security, cloud delivered security with networking. And there's a whole lot of reasons for doing that. And we'll go through some of those reasons in this slide and the next three slides actually. This particular slide covers more of the operational aspect. So let's just say you've got one single vendor, and this is what Citrix can provide you today, one single vendor that provides you that cloud delivered security and the networking piece of it, you've suddenly got one person, one throat to choke essentially, in terms of being able to understand as to, okay, now let's just say you're buying a certain security service. How does that security service interoperate with your traffic shaping functionality, WAN optimization functionality, traffic visibility functionality, all of that. So all of that is consolidated into one solution. And there is a single conversation you can have with a single vendor where you and your security counterpart or you and your networking counterpart can come together and have that conversation with Citrix. It also helps you accelerate operations. So for instance, in the example that we talked about earlier, in case of a merger and acquisition, and you need to suddenly expand to new branch locations, or if you're even going through organic growth, if you need to suddenly expand to new applications, new amount of traffic, new SSL volume is increasing, so you need to scale up in terms of capacity. In all of those cases, you've got one single vendor to approach to be able to have that scale. And it's let's just say hypothetically, if you're trying to access a certain SaaS application and the connection to that application goes down, you're not able to go through that connection. Then where is the problem? Is the problem with the networking side? Is the problem with the security side? Or is it the SaaS application? So the number of people in technical support that you need to talk to reduces if you're just dealing with a single vendor. And again, this is not just our narrative. If you look through Gartner's research on SASE and the motivation behind SASE, agile IT operations is one of the core tenets of being able to deploy a SASE solution. And that's what Citrix can provide you today uniquely. From an automation perspective, let's just say you have a Citrix SD-WAN appliance at your branch location. Citrix SD-WAN, and Ravi is going to demo some of this, he's going to walk through the UI. In the Citrix SD-WAN appliance, you are able to go through and you're able to click a few buttons to be able to establish resilient connectivity to secure internet access. Now, what do I mean by resilient connectivity? Now, when that Citrix SD-WAN appliance connects to secure internet access, it connects to a primary secure internet access point of presence. So the dots on the global map that Elisa had showed you earlier is going to connect to one of the dots while keeping another security point of presence or another one of those dots as backup. So there's going to be a secondary POP and a primary POP that we are going to connect into. Let's just say the primary POP goes down for whatever reason, we can immediately switch over to the backup point of presence. Now, connecting into each point of presence, we have two links. So we have a primary link and we have a backup link. We monitor the status of each of the links at all times. And if the primary link goes down, we switch to the backup link. So if you're seeing out here, there is a tremendous amount of resiliency that you've got because of this unification between SD-WAN and security. If security goes down, networking starts working overtime to be able to switch you onto another security point of presence so that you're always protected. So that conversation that's happening between networking and security ensures business continuity prevails. The other thing is that in terms of just simplifying your life, right? And so you don't have to have like multiple tabs open or multiple screens. You've got one particular window in which you've got you log in to the Citrix Cloud, and in that Citrix Cloud, you've got a section for your SD-WAN and you've got a section for your SIA. And you're able to, within the SD-WAN, you're able to make configurations that relate into traffic shaping for SIA. You're able to bring analytics together and a whole host of other features. And keep in mind, we are generally available today. What we've got today is V1.0. We are going to have a lot more that's going to be coming in the future. We are just scratching the surface right now. But even while we're scratching the surface, we're actually much ahead of what the typical technology is in the industry today. So there's a whole lot of cool stuff in terms of this integration between Citrix SD-WAN and SIA. And to really hone this point, and also remove some of the myths that are in the industry today, I just want to kind of dive into this particular slide. Now, if you look at this particular slide, we know that I think we all know why hub and spoke architectures are not a good idea. They're not a good idea because you've got to backhaul traffic that adds latency. That hardware stack that sits in the data center is extremely complex to manage. You need to do upgrades and updates and all of that stuff. So a lot of vendors and a lot of internet websites are going to basically say, okay, fine, you know what? If you just switch to a pure security cloud, that's a good idea. yeah, definitely it solves a whole lot of problems. You don't need to take care of a hardware security stack. And a big deal also is that you can actually do local internet breakouts. So you're not backhauling, you're going straight to the cloud. That's awesome, but it does not deal with the unpredictability of the internet. If your internet traffic behaves poorly, if your internet performance is poor, you're still not going to be productive because your OneDrive is eventually going to time out when you're trying to load a huge file out there. So you need the combination of both SD-WAN as well as cloud delivered security to be able to deliver that consistent performance. And that's going to assure you, as far as the access, the secure, fast, and consistent access to SaaS apps and internet is concerned. If you want that secure access, that identity and context aware, zero trust access to internal apps, then again, Gartner recommendations as well as other analyst recommendations are that you want to deploy a ZTNA solution, and that's something that Citrix can provide as well. So essentially, what we are saying is, what you want to do is you want to go back and you want to do full research in terms of, okay, what are the different checkboxes I need to meet in order to deliver a solution that's going to truly support fast, consistent, and secure access to all applications, SaaS applications, cloud-based applications, internal, external, internet, all of that. And you're going to realize that there's a lot of different technologies that are needed for that. And all of those technologies need to come together in one cohesive whole that is unified, that is managed in a unified way. And that's something that Citrix can provide. If some of you have heard about Secure Workspace Access, which is our ZTNA solution, our ZTNA solution or Secure Workspace Access secures access to all internal applications, while Secure Internet Access secures access to all internet and SaaS applications. So essentially everything that you're accessing from your endpoint device, regardless of where that endpoint device is secured. You could be sitting at a Starbucks, at the airport, at home, at your cousin's place, wherever. You're always going to be fully secured. You don't have to worry about malware coming into your system or anything of that nature. So just to close out this conversation regarding SIA, we have a very, very comprehensive set of capabilities, and all of these security capabilities are unified across networking and security. So you've got one cloud console, which is Citrix Cloud, and that cloud console is your unified management plane. The architecture is defined, is being designed in a manner that is going to inherently deliver a higher performance. It's a lot better than buying so-called best-of-breed solutions and service chaining them together. The latter approach of service chaining actually causes an additional amount of latency, which is not the case in case of our single pass architecture. We have 100 plus points of presence globally, which means that there is no backhaul ever needed. And also the architecture is designed, and Elisa had covered this, to inherently support greater privacy, greater data segregation, and IP address retention, which is important from a regulatory and compliance perspective. We also have deep forensics and analytics capabilities. If you have, let's just say, if you have Splunk, we have APIs to integrate with Splunk, but you have the inherent, the built-in functionality from a visibility perspective. And lastly, we have a pretty powerful SD-WAN solution. So if you haven't explored that already, you should. Whatever your environment, we realize that you already probably have a fairly diverse environment. You probably are a Microsoft shop, or you're using Okta, or you're using Splunk. Whatever your environment, we can fit right into that environment. So for instance, we have powerful integrations with Microsoft across multiple business units in Microsoft. We have integrations with Splunk in which you can very easily just port over our log data into Splunk. And if you want to say anonymize certain data while you're exporting that can also be done. Citrix SD-WAN is a certified vendor for Office 365. So there's a whole lot of different integrations that we already have that will make your migration easy. And this is our closing slide. As you looked through, as you saw the functionality that Citrix SIA can deliver, hopefully you realize that, okay, if you're still backhauling SaaS traffic, if you're still backhauling internet traffic, we can remove that backhaul. We can help you secure local internet breakouts or direct internet access, and we can do that in a manner that we will continue to block threats that are coming in from the internet. So we will ensure that even as you access, say, even through Google Drive or even through just, say, Facebook, or if you want to manage access to any applications, we can totally do that. We can ensure that your users are secure wherever those users are. So just because a certain person travels from, say, London to Australia doesn't mean that their security posture changes. So we have that full level of security. If you've got certain users that are using Citrix virtual apps and desktops, or if they're using Citrix Workspace, Citrix SIA is still relevant to you. Let's just say in your enterprise, you've got 20 users that are CVAD users, that are Citrix virtual apps and desktops users, and 80 that are not. Citrix Secure Internet Access is valuable for all of your employees, all the 100 users. Every single employee that accesses the internet is someone that needs to be secured with Citrix Secure Internet Access. And lastly, this is a cloud delivered security solution, which means it's very easy to scale, it's very easy to manage. There's no hardware that you have to worry about, and it's just everything delivered through Citrix. So it's a lot easier for you. Unless there are any other questions at this point, let's get into the product demonstration. Ravi.
All right, Ravi, I gave you presenter controls. Do you have a pop-up? Can you hear us?
I didn't, not yet.
All right, you have 2 logins, so let me try the other one.
Yeah. I have it now.
Okay, can you present, please? There we go. We see your PowerPoint. And there you go. Presentation mode. Please introduce yourself as well, Ravi, and take it away.
Yeah. First of all, thanks to Akshay and Elisa for introducing and providing details on our SASE offering. And myself, Ravi Shankar Pegada, I'm part of SD-WAN Solutions Architect team. So today I'll be providing a demonstration on Citrix SASE offering, which includes our SD-WAN as well as Citrix SIA service. So as you can see on the screen over here, the branch users can be secured using our Citrix SIA solution. And within the branch, there will be multiple users, like there can be IT managed devices or laptops, which are completely managed by an enterprise IT, which can be considered as managed endpoints. And there can be unmanaged endpoints like BYOD devices, like guest users or IoT platforms. So we need to provide security for all these platforms, and that can be achieved using our combined SASE offering from Citrix. So as you can see over here, we can have 3 different traffic flows. The traffic initiated from the managed endpoints, which are completely managed by an enterprise IT. If there is any internet traffic initiated and if they are trying to access SaaS apps, SD-WAN will be able to route the traffic directly onto our Citrix SIA cloud platform. And on these managed endpoints, we'll be installing SIA Cloud Connector agent, which will be automatically installing the root certificates, automatically configuring the proxy settings on the endpoints, which will be able to proxy the traffic towards our Citrix SIA cloud service for us to get the traffic secured using our solution. And what about the traffic that is initiated by unmanaged devices, on which we might not be able to install the Cloud Connector agent? So for those users, the traffic initiated from the unmanaged endpoints, our SD-WAN will be able to route the traffic through the IPsec or GRE tunnel that's established from SD-WAN towards Citrix SIA Cloud. And this tunnel establishment is completely automated using our SD-WAN orchestrator, which I'll be going through in a while. And all of these things will be completely managed using Citrix SD-WAN orchestrator platform. And before going there, we also can see here the third traffic flow, the traffic between the branch and data center will be completely secured using our SD-WAN virtual path, which will be providing complete, reliable, and resilient connectivity between the branch and data center. So with this, we can make sure that our Citrix SASE offering will be able to provide complete edge router functionality using our SD-WAN at a particular branch, and also we'll be able to secure all the apps using our Citrix SASE solution, which will be completely providing us the SASE offering from Citrix. So traditionally, all the internet access, the traffic that is initiated from the branch host machines or the users will be backhauled towards the data center in order to get the traffic scrutinized over there by having the firewalls installed on data center. So this will definitely introduce latency and it will impact the user experience. So how are we going to resolve that particular issue without compromising on security? For that, the traffic from the branch offices, the internet traffic, will be directly sent onto our Citrix SAA cloud platform. By having this integration at the branch office, the internet traffic will be directly sent onto Citrix SAA POP, which is nearest to that particular branch. Based on the cloud connector agent that we are installing, it will be able to identify the nearest POP that is located to near to that particular branch, and will be redirecting the traffic to that particular SAA POP, so that there will be very less or very minimal latency, which will provide better user experience, and at the same time, all the users will be completely secured using our Citrix SAA offering. So as part of this demonstration, I'll be introducing on the configuration with respect to SAA delivery service on SD-WAN orchestrator, which will be automatically establishing the tunnel towards SAA cloud platform, which will be used to secure unmanaged endpoints. And I'll also showcase on the security groups that we'll be using, like different users in an organization will be part of different security groups. And I'll showcase on how and where it will be configured and how it can be used to apply all the security functionalities. And also we'll discuss on how the agent can be configured and installed. After that, I'll try to configure some of the security policies. For example, I'll try to block a web category, finance and gambling, and we'll try to access some of the gambling website, 777.com or casino.com, from the managed endpoint, and try to see that whether it is getting blocked or not. Similarly, we'll try to configure the security policies that are associated with the unmanaged security group, and we'll try to see what's going to happen for that. So here is our combined integrated management platform. As you can see here, we have SD-WAN as well as Secure Internet Access. This is completely unified, and we'll be able to manage using single sign-on onto our Citrix Cloud. So if you might be familiar that this SD-WAN orchestrator will be used to manage the SD-WAN network, where you will be able to completely manage, configure, and troubleshoot whatever you want on that particular network. So for this demonstration, I have a set of sites. Like in this network, I have multiple sites, but I'll be using this 110 home user. I have a 110 platform at my home. So since I am remote, see, as most of us are remote nowadays, like we'll be able to, we should be able to get secured using our SAA solution. So I'll showcase on that as well. Before going into that, I have established a IPsec tunnel from my 110 platform towards the SAA service by using my delivery service. Here you can see that by going to this delivery services, we have introduced new delivery service, which is Secure Internet Access. So we just need to allocate the bandwidth. This bandwidth, whatever the bandwidth that we have allocated on that particular sites that we have defined, the defined percentage will be taken and associated with this delivery service. This configuration is very simple. We just need to select the SAA account, and we just need to add a particular site and associate the region. So, and just click on done, so that you're done with the configuration just by activating the configuration. We internally take care of configuring configuration related to IPsec tunnel and getting the IKE peer information from SIA gateway. All these things will be taken care automatically, and the tunnel will be established, and all the routing will be taken care internally. So while adding a site, you can see that just by clicking adding a site, you'll be able to select the IPsec tunnel or GRE tunnel. GRE tunnel is going to be available for now. We just have IPsec tunnel support, and here the regions include the regions that are associated with this particular Citrix cloud account, and these regions are our SIA POPs to which we wanted to establish the tunnel. If we select auto, whatever the SIA POPs that are available, and once after we select auto, and if we select a particular branch, and we just need to review and click on done, so that IPsec tunnel will be established towards the nearest POPs by selecting auto, which means based on the location of a particular branch, IPsec tunnel will be established towards two nearest POPs, one for primary and one for the secondary or backup tunnel, so that we'll have complete redundancy. So I already have IPsec tunnel. You can see here my 110 home user, which is already provisioned, and I have the tunnel up and running. And this tunnel I'll be using to send my unmanaged traffic. So I have 110 at my home, and I'll consider my mobile as my unmanaged device and try to use that as part of the demonstration. So to access or send traffic through my unmanaged mobile device, I'm using my Wi-Fi connectivity. As most of you guys might be aware, we have Wi-Fi capability on our SD-WAN. We can define multiple SSIDs over here. So you can see here, I have defined two SSIDs, one for Citrix user, one for guest users as well. I'll consider my mobile device as my guest user, which is unmanaged. So that's with respect to the configuration on SD-WAN. Just a second. I'm sorry for the interruption.
All right, while you're doing that, I have a couple questions for you. So let's go ahead and see if we can answer those. Do you have pricing and packaging information available, as well as bandwidth for the platforms? Do we have a public link for that, or how do we get that out to our customers and partners?
Yeah, so this is Elisa again. Please contact your sellers and your sales rep, and they'll be able to provide that information to you.
Okay, and then also, if you're setting up active and standby across POPs, the question really is, what happens like in EMEA, where you have a lot of countries in small proximity? Can the actual clients themselves roam between different POPs? How do we handle that?
You need to select what POPs the users are accessing, but there is backend connectivity across all POPs.
Okay, so there's an actual POP list that can be configured.
Yes. Is correct.
If the question is really about configuring IPsec tunnel, it's a branch site that will be talking to a particular POP. But if the user is remote and if he's roaming, he will be connected to the nearest POP using our Cloud Connector agent automatically. Based on their internet connectivity, based on its current location, our agent will be able to connect to the nearest POP automatically.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions we have. Thank you. Continue
I'm
on.
sorry for the interruption. So here we have another tab over here, Secure Internet Access. Over here, and within the dashboard itself, we'll be able to see the health of the nodes, and within this dashboard, we'll be able to see all the SIA POPs as well as SD-WAN sites as well. If you click on these nodes, we'll be able to see the SIA POPs that are associated with this account, and if we can see the health of the SD-WAN sites by clicking on this SD-WAN tab. So now how do we go ahead and configure SIA? For that, we just need to come here, configuration. If we click on this open SIA configuration, it will be taking us to a new tab, which I have already opened. And here we can see this complete SIA nodes that are associated with this account, and its location and public IPs also can be seen. So I have this SIA node or portal available over here. Once we click on this SIA configuration, we'll be opened with this particular configuration or management console. So here we have a lot of configuration and security offerings along with reporting analytics. So to start with, I'll introduce on the users and group, which is basically the first important thing that we need to know. So any enterprise will have different security groups associated to different groups or departments within an organization. So in order to configure the security groups, we have group management section. Here we'll be able to go ahead and edit any of the available security groups. We have 1,000 security groups which are predefined. We'll be able to edit these and use these security groups in our configuration. For this demonstration, I have configured 2 security groups with group ID 12 and 13. One for managed users. You can just edit the security groups and configure the name that we wanted to use in security configurations. And other one is demo unmanaged users. Once after defining the security groups, we are good to go ahead and configure any of the security configurations. So for the managed users, we are going to install SIA Cloud Connector agent. For that, if you want to install, first of all, we need to configure the Cloud Connector that we wanted to download and install. The main important thing that we need to take care here is while configuring, we need to configure the security group that we wanted to associate to this. For example, I wanted to install security SIA Cloud Connector. First thing that I need to do is I need to associate a security group. Once after this, we need to just save it, and we can go ahead and download the Cloud Connector agent and install on the platform. Currently, I have my agent installed. This particular, whatever the webinar, all these things are going through my SIA Cloud service. So as you can see here, we have a whole lot of options over here. We can have this Cloud Connector installed on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Android, all these operating systems are supported. So once we install this Cloud Connector agent, that Cloud Connector agent will be automatically installing the certificates, automatically configuring the proxy settings, all those stuff will be taken care automatically. Once after that, now we can go ahead and configure our security policies that we wanted to enable for these managed and unmanaged users. So for this demonstration, you can see here we have a lot of configuration options like web security, CASB, DLP, all this stuff. As part of this demonstration, I'll just try to go ahead and see what we can configure as part of our web security. Our web security is basically, it's not just basic URL filtering. It has a lot of configuration options. You'll be able to configure based on, filter based on browser, OS, block a list, or you'll be able to block based on content type or file extensions. All these options are available within our web security. For this demonstration, for the demo users, I'm trying to block a category drugs, finance, and gambling. So I'll try to access some of the sites that are falling into gambling website. So I have already configured this. Let's try to access some gambling website and see what's going to happen. So yeah, you can see that it's been blocked, and it has presented as a customized block page. And we can see that the description says that it is part of gambling, and it is falling into the security group that we have configured. So with that, we can make sure that the security policy applied on the security group is taken care appropriately. And you can see this thing reported in our reporting and analytics as well. If we go to reporting and analytics, we have a lot of reporting options over here. The real-time dashboard will provide you complete details on the amount of bandwidth utilized. If there is any suspicious activity, all these things will be reported. And all the blocked domains, whatever the visited domains, all these things will be shown within the dashboard itself. We'll be able to see the blocked users and the users by time, all these things. You can see here that there is a lot of reporting and analytics available within the dashboard itself. So we can see the real-time logs that is happening. I'm trying, as I have installed my agent, you can see that the traffic is coming from my laptop, all this traffic, real-time it is getting updated. Now to see the events, whatever the blocked events, we can see the events log over here so that we'll get to know what's happening for the traffic that we have accessed. So you can see that I have tried to access 777.com. It got blocked, and it is falling part of this security group that we have defined, demo managed users. You can see that this is part of managed users, and it's been blocked because it is falling into gambling category. So you can see, you have seen that we have got a customized block page. How did we get that? For that, we can go to our customization section. You'll be able to customize based on the enterprise or customer requirement. They can have their own logos. They can define the customized templates. One second. Yeah. Here we'll be able to manage the colors. We'll be able to manage the logo. We'll be able to upload. We'll be able to upload this customer logo, and all these things can be whatever the information that you want to present to the users who are accessing internet. We'll be able to customize all the content over here. So having said that, I'll try to see what's going to happen for the unmanaged devices. So within the web security, we have seen that we have tried to block the traffic from the managed devices. And at the same time, let us try to access espn.com, which is not part of any of the blocked category. We should be able to access this, and the same thing will be reported in our reporting and analytics that I'll showcase in a while. Before that, let's see what's their part of the unmanaged users. So this unmanaged users, I'm trying to block gambling. I have also blocked friendship. Within this friendship category, there will be like Facebook, Twitter, all these applications will be falling into friendship category. And since these unmanaged devices will not have any of the Cloud Connector agent installed, the traffic, as we have discussed, will be sending the traffic through the IPsec or GRE tunnel from SD-WAN towards our SAA service. So for that, now I'm going to use my mobile device, which is connected to the Wi-Fi of my 110 SD-WAN. So I'll just try to access Facebook, and we'll see the reports and see what's going to happen for my traffic that I have accessed. So we'll just be on the real-time dashboard itself, and we'll be able to see the reports. Within the real-time logs itself, see here we are seeing that the mobile Facebook, whatever I have tried to access, it got blocked, and this is my IP address 172.16 that got allocated using my Wi-Fi, and it's falling into Facebook category, and it got blocked. And we can see this in our events log as well, which will provide us details on web security group. Here you can see that demo unmanaged group. That is the name of the security group that we have used and defined. See, here you can see that all this traffic, the Facebook traffic that I have accessed, it got blocked because it's falling into friendship category. And one important thing to be noted over here, earlier we have seen that the traffic initiated from my laptop, which is username Ravi, it has nothing shown on the location. This location indicates the gateway of the IPsec tunnel. This is the name of the tunnel, which means the traffic initiated from the unmanaged device is being redirected through the IPsec tunnel. And this tunnel we can see in our here itself. We'll be able to see. If you go to connect device to cloud section, here we have tunnels, and we'll be able to see the tunnel dashboard as well as IPsec tunnels as well. If we go here, we'll be able to see the name of the tunnel that is being used. Sorry, within this. This is the tunnel that I'm using, 110 home 570. This is the name of the tunnel. And as we have seen on the reports, the location is marked with this particular tunnel, which means the traffic initiated from the unmanaged device is being sent through the tunnel. And it got blocked as per the security policy definition. So now let's try to access some of, as you can see here within web security, we have malware defense and we have malware sandboxing as well. With this malware sandboxing, you'll be able to upload any of the suspicious files, or you can specify the URL as well, so that we'll be able to analyze the file for any virus infection. And we can enable this malware defense functionality globally, and all the traffic that is being sent through this cloud service will be protected against any of the malware. So for testing that, we'll just try to access ICAR web virus infected file. So this is from my managed endpoints again, where I have the cloud connector already installed. I'll just try to download a virus infected file. This is the test file that will be providing by icar.org. We can see that it's a virus detected. Description says that, and the content is being blocked. And the important thing here is the group name and the number, because this is the group name that is associated with my laptop or the user. So this user has tried to access a virus infected file and it's been blocked. And the same thing will be reported in our reporting and analytics as well.
Great. This is
it will be updated in the real-time logs.
Ravi, this is a perfect segue. We're going to, what an excellent demo. As you can see, rich reporting details and analytics on top of all of our capabilities. We're actually going to switch gears here and bring Jason Poole in to take us to through our news and views. And then from there, Jason, are you on the phone? I'm going to go ahead and...
I am here.
First of all, I have one slide,
Okay.
and then I'm going to turn it over to you. Folks on the line, if there is any follow-up feedback, please make sure you use the Networking Masterclass or post into the questions and or chat. We will follow up with you on any of those questions and or details as desired. As we continue to move through the program here, hot off the press, this is my boss, by the way, Marissa Schmidt out of Santa Clara. She posted this blog, so 10 of the coolest ADC enhancements of the past year. So what we really like to do is, you know, as a company, we have a lot of features and capabilities that are being released across all of our networking portfolio. Marissa compiles these and she puts them into a blog so that you can effectively reference what we consider, you know, some of the big top 10 items, what we see coming through the queue, the most demanded feature enhancements that we have, and that's all being posted here in this blog. So make sure you review that. And as we continue, Mr. Poole, I heard your voice. Now I am going to hand things over to you, Jason.
Great
My
stuff,
good
Stan.
friend. We haven't had you on the master class in a while.
It has
Good to
been a
have you
while.
back. And take us home.
Okay. I just wanted to share, if you read that blog by Marissa, one of the things that she ends with, like her number one cool thing was the testing that we did in December 2020. The Tolley group carried out some benchmark testing of Citrix ADC VPX against F5 Virtual Edition in hybrid multi-cloud environments and Citrix CPX against Envoy in cloud-native environments. And the results showed how Citrix ADC's architecture enabled it to outperform both competitive offerings in terms of latency, throughput, and CPU utilization right across the board. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit, we've looked at, I'm going to cover the testing objectives, the results, and what it means for choosing your ADC. So first thing, that the goal of our testing, I suppose, was to have an independent third party carry out a fair, unbiased assessment to benchmark Citrix ADC in scenarios that were as close to real world, or at least as close as you can get in the lab, right? So the tests were conducted in AWS, and we used a variety of different scenarios, which we'll look at in more detail when we come to do the tests. And there was a focus, we're testing against, as I say, F5, we commonly see, and it's a benchmark to test against them, and also Envoy in cloud native environments. And the goal was to focus on the so what. So that's why we went for these real world testing environments and what it means to customers in terms of the ADC that they choose. And we've put together, or Tolly have put together some reports, which I'll give you links to at the end for more details. So what do we look at? Well, we looked at the volume throughput. No performance testing would be complete without looking at the throughput volume, or the maximum throughput, or the comparison of throughputs with ADCs. And similarly, HTTPS transactions. We've seen this in all the data sheets. So we wanted to get a measure of what it was really like in real world scenarios. And of course, we're starting to see more customers ask us about consolidating security into their ADC to bring real value. So we thought, well, okay, that's fine. What does it look like in terms of testing? So what we did, we tested the core load balancing functionality, and then we also tested it with ADC enabled. So in this time, I'm going quite quickly, but to make the test more real world, we looked at HTTPS, and we didn't bother reporting on the HTTP. Google tells us nearly 90% of traffic's encrypted, so why bother? And we looked at TLS 1.2 and 1.3. We know that both are out there. Quick research showed that it's about a 50-50 mix on internet sites today as to which one they'll do. So we thought, well, we need to test with both so it satisfies all our customers in terms of how they're doing. And was Citrix advantaged or disadvantaged in one versus the other? Response sizes. We looked at what would be the average response size that you could expect for content on the internet, and we looked at the HTTP archive, who told us the average web page is about 2 megs, and it takes about 75 requests to do that. So simple division showed us a 30 kilobyte response size for the web traffic was probably sensible, and we went smaller with the CPX and the cloud native environment because we figured that a lot of the machine-to-machine inter-microservice communication probably doesn't deliver large graphic files, so that's going to make it a bit smaller. And latency measurements, we measured latency and we measured CPU utilization or / performance, and we used the P99 latency. We could have used the average latency. It would have been a similar, actually probably would have been more advantageous to us had we done that. But we use P99 as it's the most strenuous test and measures the latency of the 99% of the worst of the transactions or requests. So this is what you would get if things were under stress. This is the the performance and the application experience you would receive. We did, as I say, all the tests in the cloud on AWS. We used C5N 4x large for most of the test. We had to drop down to C5 4x large. So C5N is more networking focused, and this is what we think clients are using when they're deploying ADCs, whether it's F5 or Citrix. So we did that for most of the tests. For the WAF test, we had to drop down to do like for like because F5 didn't have a version of software of the right edition that was supported by C5N at the time we did the tests. And we used the X large for the Envoy CPX testing. Excuse me. And of course, in WAF testing, we had to use the same profiles to make it a fair test. So we looked at the core inspections, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and so on. So what did it yield? Well, Tolly did these tests, and they told us that Citrix VPX delivers better results in F5 in every variant of every test, which was quite a a resounding indictment, if I'm honest with you. But the highlights of the test, and we'll look at each of them very briefly as we go through, was that Citrix had 1/5 of the latency in throughput, half the latency in transactions, which resulted in nearly 2 billion more transactions per day. And we also saw that Citrix used only 3/4 of the latency and CPU resources in the WAF tests. So that's pretty powerful. So let's look at what each of those is individually. So this is the graph for the volume throughput against F5. And you'll see here we looked at TLS 1.2 on the right and TLS 1.3 on the left. They're similar as we expected, but the thing to point out here, this idle is just 100 requests per second in each case as we go through all these tests. And stressed here, we hit a packet limit of 2 million packets per second in the EC2 instance we were using. So we had to fix the throughput at as close to sensible as we could. We went with 14 gigabits of throughput, and then we monitored CPU utilization as a proxy for performance. And if you look at this, this is 50% of the CPU utilization. So to me, that means either half the number of boxes or smaller boxes when you're deploying ADCs in the cloud, if you choose to go with Citrix ADC as opposed to the F5 Big IP Virtual Edition. In terms of the transaction tests, again, stressed and idle, again, 1.3 and 1.2. Again, we hit this packet per second limit. So we turned it down a bit and said, okay, let's settle 200,000 transactions per second and monitor the CPU. So it is a similar scenario as you'd expect, though the effects are not as pronounced as it is with throughput, but it still speaks to the superior processing of VPX over F5 Virtual Edition. In any case, the sessions were established faster with CPX with VPX than with the F5, which leads to a better user experience. Again, you can see the CPU utilization was about 10% better, but not as much, as I said, as in the throughput tests. And so we decided to fix this at 65% CPU and monitor the total number of transactions that we could get. So we did this for 7 minutes and scaled that up, and we can see that Citrix delivers nearly 2 billion more transactions per day. So you're never going to run short of processing power when it comes to HTTPS requests with Citrix. With WAF enabled, the previous tests were about core ADC functionality, but we wanted to see how the devices perform with the added stress of WAF inspections. As you'd imagine, whenever you start to do security inspections, it does consume more CPU. It does increase the latency. We saw actually with this one, we monitored an 80-20 get to post mix of traffic. And then we monitored this with 100% of WAF traffic, i.e. all packets inspected, and then again with 33% of the WAF traffic inspected. And you can see, I hope that Citrix is better in each case across the board, and we've done TLS 1.3 on the left, 1.2 on the right, so very similar there, and about 25 to 35% better CPU utilization across the board. And I think that this really speaks volume about the single pass architecture that Citrix has that gives it a performance advantage when you start to bring things together. Once again, idle state 100 requests per second, and stressed because of the packet limit we hit with the C5 4x large of 1 million packets per second, to a smaller number of packets per second. We fixed it at about 3.8 gigabits to make it a fair test. Switching across to the cloud native environment, so in microservices, i.e. Service Mesh Lite scenarios, Polly found that the CPX outperformed the Envoy proxy in all test scenarios with lower latency and better throughput and transaction rates. So the summary slide is 1/7 of the latency, 2.3 times the throughput, and 3.2 times the number of transactions. And we've always thought that Citrix had a better performance than Envoy, but the scale of that superiority, I think, is actually, it's simply quite staggering, and it shows really well on the graphs here. If you look at the transaction, it's what is that, nearly 10 or more than 9 milliseconds per transaction, and that is really really something. So in this test, we were able to push it to 100% as we're only using a single core, and the throughput is more than double that of Envoy. And as I said, this test is reflective of the conditions of east-west traffic in a service mesh light architecture, for example. And in cloud native applications, I think the effective latency is even more important because one, a single request will traverse multiple microservices, and latency is cumulative and additive. And two, all application requests are effectively a network call, and then they add latency to each stage. So even internal communications with an application can cause issues for that application and dramatically affect its performance. And it's a similar story with the HTTPS transactions. More than 3 times the number of transactions were possible with Citrix than with Envoy, and the latency of each request is much higher with Envoy, as you see. And I think this is probably indicative that Citrix has been around for 20+ years and has taken the time to optimize the way that it processes traffic. Whereas Envoy is a new open source project, and sure, people contribute to the functionality, but I don't think there's so much of a focus on optimizing the performance. And so what does all this mean? Well, actually, it's important to our customers. It's important because latency it matters. The apocryphal statement from Amazon, each additional 100 milliseconds of page load time costs them 1% in sales. Now, we're not all Amazon, of course, nor are we all Google, but they also point out that every half second of search page generation time drops their search traffic by 20%. I agreed these were done some time ago, and we know that Google spends millions of dollars to optimize their response times. But I think the most important one here is the Akamai report that said that they found a 2-second delay in web page load time increases the bounce rate by 100%. And I know that in this audience we have a lot of customers who are perhaps delivering e-commerce, and if you're getting bounce rates because of 2-second delay in a page, that can be fixed by a better load balancer or a better ADC. So that's an important choice for you to make, is that factor of latency. And so if we look now, the other last piece here, what this means, go and download these reports today. And remember that the tests were independent and fair, and that latency does affect the application, and poor latency leads to a bad user experience. Think about the performance when you're talking about something that's only using 50% of the CPU. Think about the fact that that means smaller or fewer devices, and especially when you're in the cloud and paying by the hour, that can be a big difference on your bottom line. But also, it means fewer auto-scale events when it's necessary. And lastly, thinking about the consolidation of security and application delivery, that single pass architecture that's built into Citrix really does help with the WAF inspection. And that wraps me up, Stan. Sorry, we've gone a little over, but thanks very much.
No, that's okay. We are a few minutes over today, but I think the content here, both on the ISM side as well as the Tally report, and the capabilities to demo our cloud with our analytics and metrics makes it worthwhile. Again, everything's being recorded, so you can certainly come back and review or catch another session if you have time. And as you see, we'll be back in March. Jason, just one thing I wanted to mention, there's also limitations around F5EE additions and licensing for those modules. So I know it doesn't show up specifically in a performance report vertical, right, based on the data sets, but as you start building out your environments and you start using different features or having multiple business unit requests that you'd like to address, that limitation sneaks up on you very quickly. So really good stuff, and it's good to see that the industry analysts and the independent testing is just validating the story all along. And it feels good to see those performance numbers en masse. So with that, folks, thank you to all our presenters. Thank you to all of our attendees and guests to the masterclass here for the EMEA session. Next month, March 3rd, make sure you're there, bring a friend. We're going to talk about Citrix on Citrix, eating your own dog food, how Citrix IT uses ADC and ADM with app security. So we call this customer zero. You probably have heard that term across the industry. This is customer zero being showcased here on the MasterClass. So we are doing what we say we do, and now we're going to tell you and show you how we do it. So with that, folks, I appreciate your time. I know we're a few minutes over, but that's okay. And I will see you in March. Thank you so much and have a great day.